New Zealand signed up to a sentence in 1978. Most people here have never read it. It says everyone has the right to an adequate standard of living, adequate food, adequate clothing, adequate housing. The country agreed to that in December of that year with many other nations, which raises a question that sounds simple and is not. What does adequate actually mean? If housing is a human right, somebody has to say what counts as a home. 4 walls, a roof that keeps the rain out, a rent you can pay. The answer exists, and it is surprisingly detailed. It is also the reason a housing report can barely mention house prices. Adequate housing has 7 parts. The rent is only one of them. Here they are. Listen for the ones you would never have guessed. The first is security of tenure. You have some legal protection against being removed from where you live. The second is services, clean water, sanitation, energy for cooking and heating, drainage, rubbish collection, and a way for emergency services to reach you. The third is affordability. Housing costs should not eat into food, medicine, or a child's education. The fourth is habitability. Enough space, protection from cold, damp, and heat, no structural danger. The fifth is accessibility. A house has to work for the people who need it. That includes disabled people and older people. The sixth is location. A home cut off from work, schools, clinics, and transport is not adequate. It does not matter how well it is built. And the seventh is cultural adequacy. Housing must respect how people actually live. That last one surprises almost everybody the first time they hear it. It also has a sharp meaning in this country. Think of papakāinga housing. Wano builds several homes together on ancestral Māori land. A rule allowing only one dwelling on one title is not neutral. It quietly makes one way of living harder than another. Cultural adequacy is the part of the list that notices that. Now hold all 7 in your head at once. Something becomes obvious. A country can improve 1 and go backwards on 3, build more houses and lose security of tenure, lower a price and push people further from work, which is why serious people refuse to argue about a single housing number. So where did this list come from? It was written in 1991. The author was the United Nations Committee that supervises the covenant. It is an interpretation, not a statute, but it has been the working definition ever since in dozens of countries. Here is where New Zealand does something interesting. 1 year before that list appeared, this country passed a landmark law, the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act, 1990. It protects free expression and freedom from unreasonable search. It protects the right to a fair trial and the right to vote. Look through it for housing and you will not find it. That was not an oversight. That act carries the civil and political half of our 1978 promises. The economic and social half, where housing lives, was left out. So we hold a right our own courts cannot enforce. You cannot walk into a New Zealand court and demand an adequate home. You can do exactly that for a fair trial, at which point it is tempting to call the whole thing decoration. It is not, and understanding why is the useful part. The covenant does not ask a country to solve housing. It asks for something more precise. It asks for progressive realization. Use the maximum resources available and keep moving forward. So the interesting question is never really where are we? It is which way are we facing? Going backwards has a name in this system. Lawyers call it retrogression. It is the one direction a government is expected to justify, not forbidden, justified. That distinction changes what a report is for. In August 2026, a small independent group, published a review of housing rights here. The Human Rights Foundation asked how the right to a decent home was being realized. Its chairperson, Erin Packard, described housing in this country as deeply unequal. The review found almost no progress since 2023. It named 4 areas it judged to have gone backwards: affordability, security of tenure, accessibility, cultural adequacy. 4 of the 7, not a headline about a market, a direction of travel across a framework. It also revived a recommendation from the Human Rights Commission that New Zealand should have a housing commissioner, someone whose job is to test Crown decisions against these standards, and that Māori housing decisions should sit with an independent Māori body. Both proposals share one idea: if a right cannot be enforced in court, build something else that keeps score. Governments can test findings like these. That argument is normal, and it is healthy. The thing to notice is what the argument is now about. Once the 7 parts exist, nobody can stay vague for long. You have to say which part you are trading away, and why. You now own something more useful than an opinion. Next time you hear the phrase housing crisis, the vague version is available to anyone. The precise version asks which of the 7. Is it the price, or the fear of a 90-day notice? Is it damp walls, or a house 2 hours from any job? Each of those has a different cause and a completely different repair. And one small fact deserves a moment at the end. The list of 7 has not changed since 1991. For 35 years it has waited, unaltered. New Zealand has argued about houses using almost none of its words.